Well, hello and welcome, Applied Math. This is Mr. Robinson here, and it is Friday, May 15th. That means it's time for Mr. Robinson's Q&A Power Hour. I didn't do one last week. There weren't really enough questions asked. I had fallen ill, just a bunch of different things. Not many questions asked still within that time, which either means that you know the answers to the things, or you've asked me in different ways, or you found an answer some other way, or maybe you're just not asking them. I do want to keep inviting you to ask me questions along the way, and they should be relating to the week's worth of content that we are working. Why do I have headphones on? I don't need these. They should be involving the week's worth of content that we are working on. Now, what I have here for week 4 is nothing new except for the assessment that I had put up, which of course is based on the previous week, week 3. So if you have any questions regarding this stuff, it should be based on week 3, which is sort of also kind of a continuation of week 2 if you think about it, because week 2 was all about factoring quadratic expressions, distributive property, things like that. So anyway, always take a look at the questions that are asked within a video. I'll even have the questions on the description section down below in YouTube, and also in the Google Classroom description expansion of Google Classroom for this item as well. And you can also click on the timestamps on YouTube as well if you're on a computer to find your exact question there. I'll show you the questions right here. There are actually only 6 questions. The first one is the only one that's content-based, and that was based on week 1. So if you're trying to find stuff based on week 3, I can tell you right now, there are no new questions based on that. However, I did provide you 2 sets of, like 1 or 2 older videos, I think, where there are some questions regarding solving by factoring, things like that. Unfortunately, I didn't have any videos regarding solving using completing the square or quadratic formula. And if you had questions on it, of course, you could have asked here and now. But no one did, so I'm not going to answer this. So I'll go ahead and just get started right here. I will answer them the order that they have been received and asked, and we'll take care of it that way. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to start with the first question that was asked. And the first question that was asked says the following: I need help solving questions that needs to be solved with using substitution. Okay, now remember, that was a week 1 property here, and I'm not to throw that one out, of course. That's still something that if you have a question on it, you still want to know how to do it. I'll be happy to provide the answers for you. But the thing is, I don't know that anything that I say right now will be any different than I've said in the past. And I'm referring to, of course, also resource videos or old Q&A videos that we've referred to them as well. Let me just give you a basic breakdown of substitution method. Just substituting in general. This isn't a system of equations thing right here. This is just substitution method in general. Let's say that here you know there's an expression that says x plus 4. And they say, evaluate this when x equals 9. What we're going to do is we're going to substitute 9 for x. 9 is going to take x's place because x equals 9. So what's the evaluation when x equals 9? If I substitute 9, it becomes 9 plus 4, which is 13. So that's what substitution is in a very brief nutshell. In a very brief nutshell, substitution is taking place of something that's equal to it. If x equals 9, 9 can take x's place. Notice that I rewrote this expression down here, but instead of x, I wrote 9. That's what substitution is. All right. To put it just a little more complexly, because we refer to this here, let's say instead this x didn't equal 9, but x equaled z minus 3. If x equals z minus 3, the whole entire quantity of z minus 3 is going to take x's place, because once again, x equals z minus 3. What does z equal? I don't know. Maybe we'd say z equals 7 and then actually solve it. The point is, if I rewrite this here, it's now going to say z minus 3 plus 4. And if I combine like terms, negative 3 plus 4 is 1. So that becomes z plus 1. Like I said, maybe you find out z is 7, and then you substitute 7 for z, and 7 plus 1 is 8. So that's what substitution is, taking its place. Now, you guys are doing a couple more things with substitution. One of them, namely, I'm going to change the expression this time. I'm going to change this to a negative 3 right here. Negative 3x plus 4. Let's do the same thing substituting. But now when you substitute, it's really important that you use parentheses around your substitution here. So negative 3. What is x? It's z minus 3, like that, plus 4. All right, substitution. Again, this took x's place. This is equal to x, so it takes x's place. So what do you do here is use the distributive property right there, and that becomes negative 3z. Now it's negative 3 times negative 3, which is a positive 9. So plus 9 and then plus 4, which becomes negative 3 z plus 13. And one more time, if z was 7, then you plug that into, like that. So the reason I'm covering these in a very basic nutshell is to make sure you understand what substitution means. It means taking place of something that's equivalent to it. It doesn't actually have to be a known number. It could be another variable within, because that's what we're starting to get. Because when you guys are substituting, we're using it in what's called a system of equations, where you have not just one variable, but two. You have x and y. This time I use z. It doesn't matter. But the point is, sometimes you have to substitute in that sort of way. So you also have to know how to use the distributive property. You're going to have to know how to solve for x in basic form, like two-step equations. That's why I gave you that stuff in the beginning of the distance learning as well. So, okay, how does this work in a system of equations? Let's start with basic, and I'll graduate from there. Let's say we know that there's an equation that says x plus 2y equals 4, and then we also know that y equals -1. This is a system of equations right here, two equations with two variables. You didn't ask me how to solve a system. You asked me how to use substitution. I'm going to let you know how I just let you know how to use substitution. Now I'm going to let you know how it kind of works in a system in a basic manner. I won't go full bore all the time. But we know that y equals -1, so like before, I'm going to substitute -1 in place of y up here. And the reason I'm doing it is it can help me solve for x. Okay, so if I substitute -1 for y, I now have an equation with just x in it. That allows me to solve for x. So you're going to have to know how to solve these kinds of equations here on out. If x minus 2 equals 4, you add 2 to both sides, you get x equals 6. So that is helping solve your system. Solving for x isn't the only thing. You also need to solve for y. Y is already solved for here, and this helps you get those answers, those ordered pairs like this one, 6, -1. That's solving the end system. When you find a solution like x, generally you have to plug that x back into another equation to solve. And I'll show you one more, and then I'll kind of be done with it. I really just wanted to get into the idea of how do you solve using substitution. There's so many different cases that we solve using substitution, but in particular right now, of course, we're using systems of equations. So I'll do one more here. Let's say you have one that says y equals x minus 3, and then you have another equation down below that says something like 4x plus 6y equals 10, and I can't guarantee this will give you clean numbers or not. If I get a fraction answer, I'm going to stop. But the point is here, once again, I can substitute something in place of y, but it's going to be this entire expression right here. Yeah, I'm not going to keep going with this problem. I'll just write out this next step. And the next step here, I rewrite the 4x, and I rewrite plus 6, but not y. I write that x minus 3. Okay. From here, you're being asked to solve for x. And yeah, this isn't going to be a clean number. You get 1.3 as your answer for x. But here, this is where you can solve for x. You distribute, you combine like terms, things like that. But that was the substitution step. X minus 3 took y's place, and you solve for x. And you know what? Once you solve for x, you can use that x to solve for y. I get x equals 1.3 as my answer here. I plug that x back in right here. Y equals 1.3 minus 3, and that's another answer. So anyway, the substitution method just says if you have a variable equal to something, that something can take place of that variable in any expression or equation that you have within that same problem's context. That's why they call these a system of equations, because in this system, all these y's should be treated alike. This y is the same thing as this y. So if y is x minus 3 can take its place. And if x equals 1.3, 1.3 can take x's place any point in the system. So that's the whole idea behind it. That's the substitution method. I have, and I hate to defer, this is just me saying that that's as much as I'm going to cover based on your question here, but I do have other videos of if you didn't check them out yet, look deeply into the example problems that I use now that you've heard that part, whoever asked this question, now that you've heard that part, and also check out the old Q&A videos and make sure that I didn't answer something else involving systems of equations or substitution that might help you there. Because I know that was kind of a longer answer. It's probably going to be the only longer answer within this bit. But I thought I'd help you out there. All right, so with that one down, let's go ahead to the next question here. And the next question asks, does optional work affect my grade? Currently, I was in the phase of like, no, I wasn't going to have it affect your grade. I might go back in the very end and just say, yeah, I'll have it affect your grade in not an extra credit way. And I want to make sure that you understand the difference between extra credit and additional credit. When we say optional work, what I want to do is give you full credit for what you do, like a 10 out of 10, whatever you call it, so you aren't penalized for not doing it. All right. I need to find out how to do it for someone who's only done it partially, because I can't put something in the grade book where someone gets 5 out of 5, someone else gets 10 out of 10. That's the only problem with optional work when it's not actually extra credit. The optional work was meant to be optional. It was meant to say there are some people who do need it. There are some people who will want it. There are some people who will think that it's actually worth the extra practice in doing so. So my current plan was optional work not affecting your grade. It definitely isn't the case. If you choose not to do it, you're not going to be penalized. That's absolutely always going to be true. If it's optional, no requirement for you to do it at all. But if you do it and you wanted to say, hey, I want it as another homework assignment, yeah, I'll see that I can find that soon enough. I don't have it in yet. It's not currently in the works. It never was. And if it incentivizes enough people to do it, I guess that'd be great. I can put that in the grade book. But make sure that you kind of do it in full, because it's harder for me to figure out that 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 kind of thing. If I can give you that, I think it's out of 100, right? 100 out of 100. I want to give you that full thing if you do it. So optional work not affecting the grade right now, but let's see if we can do that. All right, next question is, when are office hours? Now, another word for office hours that I'm using online is tutoring. So your office hours are the daily Zoom sessions. So if you are in applied math, my daily office hours every school day that we have, so Monday through Friday, not counting the last week, because I think that's Memorial Day, but Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And if you go on, and I know I've answered this before, but I'm fine showing you here. If you go onto your Google Classroom, let's go to Applied Math, third period class, go to classwork, and you'll see right here tutoring, that it shows this pop-up right here, daily Zoom sessions, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. So that answers the question within. Okay, but you might not have known that office hours and Zoom were the same thing. It's not mandated ever. It's not required. But if you click on this thing here, you'll see how you can get in. If you click on this link, it can help you open the Zoom application, either on your phone or on your computer, or you might have to download it. If you click on the link, I don't think you need the meeting ID, but they'll ask for the password. When you enter the password, and if I'm live, if it's between 1 to 2 p.m. on a weekday, I'll get you out of the waiting room and into the Zoom session itself. Those are the office hours within. Okay, so that's just making sure that you know kind of what that means as far as office hours versus Zoom session. They're all the same thing. Those are the office hours. So when are they? 1 to 2 p.m. every school day, Monday through Friday. Okay. If someone's still inside the room after 2 p.m., I'm going to keep it open. But once they leave, I'm gone. All right. What is our final going to look like if we have one? So I did answer this the last thing. We won't have a final, but this does help me kind of answer another question that I think that might be asked here is, our final day is on a Friday. It's Friday, May 29th, and, we're expected to probably still kind of do work of some sort. However, we are assigned work on Tuesdays, and homework and work is due on Tuesdays. So the real question is, what do we do those last 3 days? I only have one more unit in mind. It's called transformations. I think we can do enough in a single week to make it happen, or I could just make it a 10-day week. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that, week 5 and week 6 are going to be one the same. Week 5 starts Tuesday, hold please, I think it's the 19th. Tuesday the 19th is the start of week 5. You're going to get new stuff that's not on quadratics, okay? It's going to be on transformations. What I'll probably do is just make it an extended week that everything will be due that Friday instead of that Tuesday. Okay, so I'm not planning on adding more content because you have more days. I'm just planning on making sure that that content covers those days. But there's no final. Now that we're in distance learning, we lost our weeks, things like that. We can't account for what we do. There's no final. But every week, you have a distance learning assessment of some sort. And in week 4, I put in the week 3 distance learning assessment. So there's that one. So you'll have one again on the week 5 bit there. You can consider that your final. It's just not cumulative, and it's not worth more than any other thing. It's just the last test that you do. So again, not a final of sorts. Not like last semester, if you know what I mean. Okay, with that one down, let's go to the next question here. Can I start getting less work or easier work? Because I have a lot of work to caught up on. Now, you may have asked this before week 4's update thing came in. I don't know when this was actually asked, but my intention of lightening the workload was to, besides the fact that I don't think we could do graphs. It was kind of hard to figure out, can we do graphs at home? And it probably wasn't easy to do. So I just didn't add anything. My plan was weeks 2 through 4 was going to be quadratics. Week 2 was going to be with the expressions, combining like terms, distribution, factoring. Week 3 was going to be solving them, and week 4 was going to be graphing them. So week 2 and 3 were as they are, and as you saw, I extended everything to be due the 19th, so that's part of this. and then I just ditched the graphing. I said I was going to do the graphing on this other week, but I just don't think it was going to work very well. So as far as less work, I'd say that I've lightened the load over a longer course of time, so the rate at which you got to do it is a little lessened there. Easier work, this is just the unit in itself. So if quadratics are difficult for you, I mean, that's one thing to understand. I can't make quadratics easier than they are. I'm not saying I don't want to. I'm saying I can't. Quadratics are what they are. And the first questions you get on IXL are generally the easiest type that you'll see. Because when you hit Math 2 next year, and when you hit the quadratics unit, that's where you kick off into, right? Applied math is supposed to integrate what you did in Math 1 and what you will do in Math 2. And quadratics is it's really one of the bigger things to know how to do, I'd say. It involves a lot of different things within the factoring, distributing, combined length terms. And it opens the doors toward higher degree polynomials. You don't need to know what that means, other than the fact that it's a part of math that you do. So I personally can't make it easier. Math cannot make it easier. That's what quadratics are. The less work, like I said, I did stretch out the thing over time. It seemed like some people were thankful of that, and I'm fine with that. That being said, if you do have a personal question, because this was asked on the Q&A video, I think you're asking it for the masses. As far as the masses go, that's what I did. On a personal level, and I've always said this, and I'm going to keep saying it here. On a personal level, if you need to approach me with something that you think you need to get accommodations with, send me a personal message. Actually, email me. Remember, these Q&A videos, I don't know who asked this question. I could look if I tried. I have to find the ID number and stuff. I don't care about that. If you have a personal question, you want to figure something else out, we can work that through. Possibly. It's going to be harder to... There's some people that are doing the work. They've shown me they've been on IXL, they've been practicing the problems, they've been messaging me, been on Zoom and stuff like that. It's a lot easier for me to accommodate them because they've shown me their effort. If you haven't signed in for attendance, if you haven't had a minute logged into IXL, and you've shown me, if you've shown me zero participation, it's harder to accommodate you with that because, look, I mean, there are ways that I will. I'm going to say, hey, don't do week 1. That was an old unit. Just start on week 2. I'll say different things like that. I'll give you some forms of accommodations like that if you approach me about it. But, as far as the cutting slack thing, I mean, it just depends on how much you've shown to begin with, right? But if you haven't participated, it's harder to figure that part out. So that's just the thing when it comes to that. So just try and pace things yourself. Utilize all the resources that you can. I know not everyone's been on Zoom, and I'm not saying you can get on Zoom, but utilize as many resources as you can. If you ask me that question, I will try and come to you by saying, what are some other things we could, what have you tried? I'll ask what you've tried. We'll figure out what's been causing the problem, because if I get one-on-one time with you, we might figure out the root of the problem, and you might decide that you don't need that easier work slack, okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay. So there's that. I don't know if I answered that there, but I'm trying to there. All right. And the final question, can we start receiving extra credit for completing the daily set puzzles? Extra credit, probably not, but the additional optional thing, just like the optional thing before, I would have loved to do that. I almost wanted to make it a required thing. I don't know how to account for it. I was trying to find ways to make the daily set puzzle something that you could submit answers to. And maybe I can. Maybe I can make a Google form out of it and I say, hey, enter in your set numbers. Enter in your set numbers and the things that you got. I didn't know if the daily set puzzle pops up differently because I know on a phone it pops up as a 3x4 instead of a 4x3. You know what I mean? So I didn't know if the numbers would be different in that form and stuff. I just didn't know what to do. And I didn't want people to just submit their time thing and say, okay, I did it. Here was my time. And I didn't want people to take pictures and send them to me too. That'd just be huge. So if you can think of a way, I think the Google form thing wouldn't be bad, but if you can think of a way to submit me your daily set things each day, then maybe we can do something like that. Haven't thought about what to do with that yet, because I did want to do that. I wanted that to be a part of the participation thing. So if you can think of a way that we can account for it in a very easy manner, not something where I have to look at all your numbers and make sure you actually did them right, things like that. I think if I can figure out a Google form thing, maybe I can do that. Extra credit, no, but as far as the whole optional, you get credit for doing it thing, yeah, I like to do something like that. All right, so that was all your questions, guys. That's it for this Q&A video here. It's one of the shorter ones, and thankfully so. However, Make sure that you ask me questions based on your content for the week so I can help you for your week submit things. No one asked a single thing here about quadratics, right? So I want to help you with your content so you can use it for the weekend and that Monday and even that Tuesday before the next material gets posted there. All right, so that'll do it for this one, guys. This is Mr. Robinson. I hope that helped any questions that you may have had. Again, there'll be a new Q&A video up the following Friday. And the questionnaire will be put up again on Tuesday for you to submit them on transformations. Please try and do it on the new content there. That'll be it for this one, guys. Take care.